My name's Will, and this is Will to Read. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Bentley Little's The Burning. I already gave my background on this book in my May TBR, but to just briefly summarize, I read quite a few Bentley Little novels in high school, really liked them, so I picked this one up because of that, but also because it's about a ghost train, and I thought that that would be quite fun. I have a lot of thoughts on this, so let's get just right to the summary. A college freshman finds herself stranded in Arizona with no place to stay and nowhere to run. Cabin fever closes in on an isolated park ranger as two sinister beauties lurk in the desert outside his door. A California divorcee is starting a promising new life, but her young son knows better because he's seen what's creeping outside the window. A cross-country traveler is on a journey of self-discovery, but one tourist trap holds its own dreadful surprises. Four strangers with one thing in common, a mysterious train choking the sky with black smoke, charging trackless across the American night, and carrying an unstoppable evil, raised from the bowels of history that will bring their worst fears to life. Yeah, the back blurb, I think, does a pretty good job of summarizing things in a non-spoiler way. I do want to warn that if that sounds like a fun time to you, that sounds like a good book, this book does contain quite a few tropes about Chinese and Native American people, which were outdated when this book was published in 2006, let alone now. There's also quite liberal usage of slurs, particularly against Chinese people in the flashback chapters, and there are instances of the use of slurs against Latinx people, Black people, and Jewish people, so keep that in mind. Also, the rest of this review will contain spoilers. I personally don't care about them, but if you do care about them, I'm going to be discussing the ending of this book and the climax in the thread section. So, if this still sounds like it might be a book you want to check out, I would advise against it. Read a different Bentley Little book. Read The Store. It's got political themes in it, but done much more tastefully, done better. Or The Ignored is good. Give this one a skip. You don't need to read it. The Ghost Train sounds fun, but it's not. It's not. Hi, it's later on in the day, which is why the lighting's probably a bit different, because I decided to write a script for these next two sections, because I wanted to be careful with my words. So anyway, the major thread that runs through this book is the mistreatment of racial minorities in the United States, particularly of Chinese and to some extent Native peoples, during the construction of the railroads in the 1800s. In order to address this issue, Little makes quite a few missteps. First of all, he relies pretty heavily on racist tropes. For example, one of the things that happens along with the ghost train arriving is the Chinese people who were killed in these massacres the book describes in a flashback about halfway through, come back and are described literally as monsters. Now, if I were in the situation described in the book, I'd probably use that word as well, but Little decided to have these events happen in the way they do, and decided to have them appear this way. He also falls into this trap by having even modern Chinese American people performing these weird revenge rites, which involve slitting a chicken's throat over a grave, and the characters that do this are not characterized beyond this. Even the victims of the massacres are only really characterized as victims, and the only point of view through which we see them is that of a really racist white male character, Chester Williams. I think Little was trying to get us to feel sympathy for the killed Chinese workers through their victimization, but in doing this, we only see them as victims, not as full people. And in the parts of the story which take place in the modern day, we only see them as perpetrators of violence against people who don't deserve it, as if racism against Chinese people doesn't exist, as if violence against Chinese people because of their race doesn't still happen. There are understandable reasons why people in the position described in the book would resort to violence, especially since no real reconciliation has been made. I feel in the spirit of fairness, I should mention that one of the main point of view characters, Dennis, is Chinese American, and he is characterized in a relatively humane fashion. However, like all of the main characters, Dennis feels more like an author insert much of the time. So when he expresses his point of view, it doesn't feel like a young Chinese American man saying them, it feels like a middle-aged white man. The other big trope we see in this book is the noble savage. In the book, Native men from all across the U.S. travel to Promontory Point, Utah, the spot where the train will finally stop, based entirely on their instincts. They don't know why they're going there, they just are. They also come to the cabin of the park ranger, Henry, because a shaman told them about him. For background, Henry is white, and was only told by his father he might have a smidge of Papago blood in him. He then proceeds to have an Avatar-esque white guy becomes one with the natives experience. Here's a quote that literally made me go, "Ugh." Henry saw, as it sped by, that the smoke was comprised of shadows, the hovering forms of those seductive shades who'd been violating his people. His people. How quickly he had come to identify himself as Papago after years, decades, of seeing himself as Caucasian and thinking of his father's story as nothing more than a fanciful rumor. This leads me to another big problem with this book. It implies that race has a biological basis, and not just with Henry. The undead Chinese workers only attack white people. This assumes that they can tell who's white and who's not purely by scent or some kind of instinct, which isn't how that works. But Little doesn't even stick to this. Angela, the college student, goes to Promontory Point with another student, Derek, and his family after following one of the trains by a car. When the people at the point end up getting attacked, Angela is not attacked because she's Latina. However, Derek, who has been described as white up to this point, is not attacked. We then learn suddenly that his father, who is out of the picture for unexplained reasons, is vaguely not white. We're just told he had darker skin. His mother ends up dying, which makes sense because she's white. However, so does his brother, who, based on the information given so far, is also biracial.
Why does he die?
The only thing I could think of is maybe it's a commentary on passing, but that doesn't work because Derek, up until this point, had been described as white, and so he clearly passes, so that explanation doesn't work at all. I don't have anything else to really add to this bit. I'm just really confused. The last thing I want to talk about is the spirit that comes down at the end of the book and makes the train and the undead people go away. It's literally called the Spirit of America and is described as this cosmic being that makes sure there's a balance in the United States. I have many problems with this as a concept. One is that it kind of implies that the United States was destined to be within the borders that it's in, which it wasn't. Nothing in history happens for a reason other than people and their motives. Another thing that bugs me about this is that it implies we are currently in a balanced state. You know, with black people getting shot by police regularly, redlining still being a thing, disparity in funding for public schools, etc., you get my point. So, that's kind of fucked up. I could see a counter to this last point being that it only brings balance to the spirit realm, which I could see, but still feel really uneasy about it because there clearly isn't a big divide between the spirit and physical realms in this book. So, yeah. Still don't feel good about that. Now that that's done, let's get to my end thoughts. So, in addition to all that stuff I just talked about in the thread section, this book has a lot of problems from a basic storytelling perspective. The plot follows four main storylines, and an additional fifth is introduced around the halfway point. None of these characters ever meet each other or really have any discernible impact on each other, with the exception of Dennis, who, along with some other Chinese Americans, stops the ghost train. This book could easily be thinned down, get rid of Angela's plotline, it has no real bearing on anything, she just witnesses stuff happen that other people do as well. Also, get rid of Henry's plot, it also ends up having no real effect on the story, and it has the bonus of getting rid of that weird white savior shit that's really outdated. Honestly, you should also get rid of the divorcee, Jolene's plot. It also has the bonus of getting rid of the Chester Williams in the modern day stuff that didn't really go anywhere. What this book should have done instead is focused on Dennis as he traveled on his road trip and had him run into the ghost train and just have it be completely his journey. Also, get rid of the weird racial stuff and just make it about a train engineer who was wronged or was just absurdly evil. That would be fun. I'd read that book, but unfortunately that's not this one. For the sake of fairness, I'm going to mention some things I do like about this book. I like Little's writing style. There's a reason I liked his stuff so much in high school. It's very easy to read. I've heard some criticize that it's maybe too easy to read, but I personally find it fun. I do also want to give him some credit for trying to tackle a difficult topic, even if he did it really, really badly. Uh, I can't think of any other extreme horror guys that have tried to tackle something like this, so I guess that's something. I do want to end by saying that I will read other Bentley Little books. If you saw my haul video from earlier this week, you know I just got a few more, but I won't be rereading this one and can't recommend it to anyone. Okay, that was my review of The Burning by Bentley Little. So, yeah, next will be it'll probably be a monthly wrap up or something like that. Or it might be a review of the book that I am currently in the middle of, and it's up here. I might do a review of this, The Great Explosion by Eric Frank Russell, but I don't know. Uh, Maybe not. We'll see what I read in between now and then. But yeah, the next video will probably be a monthly wrap up or something. In the meantime, if you like this, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that fun stuff that you do on YouTube, and have a good time. And see you later.